Good morning, everybody. I'm Don Stewart, and welcome to another edition of Breaking News. Today is Thursday, the 29th day of May, 2025, and more important headlines have hit the wires in the last few hours, and the most important story will be our top story, which basically tells us, as we reported yesterday, there is a new deal on the table. We'll talk about this. Witkoff proposes a minor IDF withdrawal. This is part of the new proposal and new aid distribution. The Jerusalem Post has the story. We'll get to it in a minute. And then we have this from Iran. They are ramping up the cyber efforts against Israel. The Shin Bet blocked 85 attempted cyber attacks today on Israeli citizens and businesses from the Jerusalem Post. They are scared of an Israeli attack, an impending attack, so they want to try and do what they can internally in Israel to cause confusion during an Israeli attack and during their response to it. Now, interestingly enough, we've got the story about the Iranian foreign minister slams the UK because the UK is saying similar things to what Trump is saying. Zero enrichment. They're demanding it in the future. Iran does zero enrichment, does not enrich uranium at all. And they threaten that the talks will halt between Iran and the UK and the European allies. Now, what's interesting there, as we've talked about, there's that sunset clause. It's a 10-year sunset clause. In 2015, this JCPOA, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, was put into effect. This October, it's done, it's finished. And so before it's finished, if Iran does not adhere to what the nations believe they should be adhering to, there's a snapback option. The snapback option basically is to again bring a bunch of sanctions against Iran that they stopped and can sanction them in various ways. And they've threatened to do this, and Iran is not happy about that. Put more sanctions on them because that's what's killing Iran financially. And they're trying to get the U.S. with this deal to, release, cut back some of the sanctions and release some of the money that they've got so they could, export terrorism more around the world. All right, and finally, a story we did a few weeks ago. It's finally been reported. Iron beam incoming. Israel's laser shield takes down enemy threats. This is from the Jerusalem Post. And if you were with us a few weeks ago, you recall we mentioned this, not giving a whole lot of detail. Well, we'll talk about it in a little bit more detail today because finally this has hit the news. All right, headline number one, new deal on the table. Witkoff proposal includes minor IDF withdrawal, new aid distribution. This is from the Jerusalem Post. Okay, U.S. Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff has presented Israel and Hamas with a modified version of his outline for a partial hostage release ceasefire deal, a source told the Jerusalem Post on Thursday. According to the source, his modified proposal would include the release of 10 living hostages. The hostage release would take place in two rounds. The proposal included four additional key points, and this is what's crucial here. The first point is the release of 18 deceased hostages alongside 10 living ones. It was not specified when the bodies would be released. This means in total, the proposal would see the release of 28 out of the remaining 58 hostages still in Gaza. All right. Additionally, both sides would agree to a 60-day ceasefire. The proposal clarifies that at the end of the period, Israel can resume fighting if it wishes or extend the ceasefire if meaningful negotiations have been ongoing. Now, here's what's really interesting. IDF would withdraw and aid distribution would change during the temporary ceasefire. And finally, the IDF would withdraw from recently captured areas in the Gaza Strip, and the distribution of humanitarian aid would return to the United Nations. Now, notably, here's what the story emphasizes. This would replace the aid distribution through the centers within the Gaza Strip by the Gazan Humanitarian Foundation. This is all new now, which is being facilitated by American volunteers. The aid division stipulation indicates that the humanitarian situation in the Gaza Strip is the driving factor behind the new proposal. This is fascinating because remember from day one, the world has been basically saying to Israel, you're starving these people there, you're trying to commit genocide, you're killing them. Hamas is, promoting this story too. And the problem was with the aid distribution, they've had, like we've given the amount of the tons and tons of food coming over there. Hamas has commandeered it. There's videos of them at gunpoint stealing the trucks and then selling it back to the citizens there. And now there's a new method of distribution led by, commandeered by Americans there. There'll be strategic places in Gaza. Well, they'll make sure the citizens get it. Well, this proposal says, oh, no, no, we don't want that. We want to go back to the old way. Let the UN do it. And the UN doing it means basically Hamas does it. So this is one of the proposals. And then, of course, the idea that Israel would withdraw to certain areas that they've just recently captured and taken over is part of the deal also. All right, shortly after Witkoff presented the proposal to Israel, Prime Minister Netanyahu called for a cabinet meeting to take place on Thursday evening, that's today, to debate it. Ministers were also invited to the cabinet meeting, including Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich and National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir. Opposition leader Yair Lapid urged Netanyahu to accept the deal. Israel must publicly and immediately accept the framework presented this morning by the American mediator Steve Witkoff. I remind Netanyahu that he has my full backing to accept the framework, even if Ben-Gvir and Smotrich try to sabotage it. The new proposal is based upon discussions held in Washington in recent days between Strategic Affairs Minister Ron Dermer and Witkoff, as well as talks conducted by Bashara Baba in Qatar with senior Hamas officials. So what do we make of this? Well, our friend Larry Goldstein, he wrote as usual, and he spoke for the overwhelming majority of the people commenting. He had something like 106 thumbs up and only 3 dislikes of what he said, and I'll read it to you. He says, oh, how about this? Let's discuss this idea for a week, or better yet, a month. When the deal does not succeed, Witkoff may propose a new deal to release 8 hostages for a 54-day truce. A month or say 6 weeks later, he may make a new proposal for 7 hostages and a 46-day truce. We may keep negotiating like this literally, not an exaggeration, at least through the end of 2025 as well into 2026. And here comes the or. Or Netanyahu could say, these negotiations have failed. Let us stop the half war. Let us fight to win. Drive off Hamas now. Which would you prefer, Larry asked, an endless stream of failed proposals or clear victory in the war? And of course, the people, by and large, almost all of them that commented on this in the Jerusalem Post article gave the thumbs up for the clear victory. So as usual, Larry hits the nail on the head. It's really impossible to see how the Israeli leadership would agree to something like this. The fact that Witkoff thought it would be a great idea speaks volumes about him. He just still doesn't get it. So we'll see. We're waiting for a response. We'll probably have one. We should have one if they respond later today on our second broadcast of breaking news. So we'll bring it to you. But it's hard to think that Israel would accept it, particularly for the 2 main reasons. The length of time, half of the hostages would still be there. After 60 days, half of the still living ones of 20, they would have to withdraw to these areas they've just taken over. The food distribution would be back in the hands of the UN. The mess that's at. It's just a win-win all the way for Hamas, and that's why it should not be accepted by Israel. We'll assume that it won't be. We'll let you know, though. Stranger things have happened. All right, now Iran. Let's go there. They are wrapping up their cyber effort. Shin Bet blocks 85 attempted cyber attacks on Israelis. Among those targeted were senior officials in the defense establishment, political figures, journalists, academics, and media professionals. The Shin Bet, which is Israel's security agency, has thwarted 85 attempted cyber attacks by Iranian operatives targeting Israeli civilians over recent months, security officials revealed on Thursday. The campaign, which appears to be escalating, has focused on gathering personal data to potentially support future physical attacks inside Israel. Iran seems to be preparing for an Israeli airstrike with the idea of sabotaging Israel from the inside. It's another indication how fearful they are of what is to come. So the cyber attacks are happening right now, and this is usually a precursor before someone attempts to do any type of rocket attack of that. And they're assuming they will have to do that in response to Israel's possible impending attack. And so this is fascinating. Now we know one of the things that Israel is doing also to Iran, it hadn't got much airplay, is cyber attacks there. And plus, we've seen, as we've mentioned before, all these accidents that keep taking place there in Iran that have basically destroyed some 20% of their capability of, launching missiles towards Israel have been neutralized by these accidents that have happened in the last 6 weeks. And we know that more accidents are coming. So it's interesting, the back and forth that goes on. All right, this one here now is also interesting. This is their Iranian foreign minister. He slams the UK's zero enrichment demand, threatens that the talks will halt. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi threatens to end nuclear talks with European officials after UK Ambassador Peter Mandelson seemingly backed the US call for zero enrichment in Iran. All right, what they have the ace up the sleeve, that is the Europeans and the Brits. Basically, like we've said before, in October, it's 10 years since the JCPOA under Obama, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, was enacted. After 10 years, it ends. It's over. And if nothing happens, then Iran can go on their merry way and enrich uranium to weapons grade. However, there's a clause in that. If Iran hasn't done what they're supposed to do under this agreement, there can be these snapbacks, which will basically put the sanctions back into place against Iran. This will come from Europe now, as the U.S. Is putting more and more sanctions against Iran. Iran does not like that, and of course, they've threatened the Brits with that, and with also the Europeans, France, and etc. So it's interesting. They're really feeling the pressure right now. So again, we will see what happens. Now, speaking of feeling the pressure, headline number 4, Iron Beam incoming. Israel's laser shields take down enemy threats. This is from the Jerusalem Post. In a global first, Israel deploys high-power laser systems to intercept enemy threats, marking a new era in aerial defense and battlefield innovation. The Israeli Ministry of Defense, IMOD, Directorate of Defense Research and Development, DDRD, and the Israeli Air Force, IAF, and the Rafael Advanced Defense Systems. Here's what they revealed. They revealed for the first time on Wednesday that during the Swords of Iron War, that's what's going on right now, they executed an accelerated development program to deploy revolutionary interception systems. As a result of this initiative, soldiers from the IAF, the Israeli Air Force Aerial Defense Array, operated high-power laser system prototypes in the field, successfully intercepting scores of enemy threats. These systems are based on technological breakthroughs developed over decades at Rafael in close cooperation with the R&D division and the DDR&D division. The deployed laser systems are part of Rafael's portfolio of directed energy weapon systems developed in collaboration and complement the more powerful Iron Beam system currently under development, which is expected to be delivered to IDF this year. Throughout the current war, the Air Force, including its aerial defense array soldiers, studied and deployed the laser systems in the field, achieving outstanding interception rates that save civilian lives and protected national assets. One of these spokesmen said the state of Israel is the first in the world to demonstrate large-scale operational laser interception capabilities. For years, they've been leading the technology in this in the defense industry, and they've developed this high-power laser technology. And basically, it talks about their vision was realized during the war. Recently, they've been keeping it off the books, off the headlines. And so they're now, for the first time, have revealed it. We will continue to advance this technology and deliver world-leading systems and capabilities to the idea of turning vision into security at air, land, sea, and across every dimension. All right, now if you recall, a few weeks ago, we mentioned this new system without going into any detail. It hadn't been revealed publicly. My friend Nodder, who we've talked about him before, if you're new to us, he works with special forces. He gives me all the insight of what's going on. And he, in fact, actually showed me a drawing of the system of what it is. And he said it's being deployed. In fact, when he was talking to me, he said what are they, C-130s? Is that the planes? They were actually delivering these to the American bases in the Middle East in anticipation of a response by Iran, a drone response, if Israel and the U.S. Attacked Iran. Anyway, basically, it's a revolutionary system that can neutralize all incoming drones. The system is presently a fixed device about the size of a truck. Like I said, he showed me a drawing of what they look like. Now, what's interesting, they're developing them also into mobile devices where they could move to wherever it may be necessary. Like we said, the U.S. bases in the Middle East received them a few weeks ago in anticipation of an Iranian response, and Israel did a joint attack. Now, the article doesn't go on into specifics about how it works, but generally speaking, we were told that it sends a beam that interferes with the guidance system of these drones, making them immediately neutralized. In other words, let's say you've got a missile coming, but first of all, you got 20 drones coming. They're kind of running interference, so they're trying to hide the missile or make it more difficult to shoot down the missile. Well, this laser beam, what it can do is immediately neutralize all these drones where they're either, destroyed or fall out of the sky. They don't hit their intended target, and there's the missile wide open to be destroyed. So it is a huge, huge, a massive new a game changer, as we're told in this whole thing with what's going on. So it's going to be a tremendous boost to Israel's defense from any drone attacks from its enemies. So I'm meeting Nader actually for lunch tomorrow, and I'll see if I can get some more information on it we can share. But they're working on some other things I can't go into about this, but he said it's literally a game changer. It's unreal what it's able to do. And what's interesting about this, and let me say this with respect to last days Bible prophecy. Remember when Ezekiel talks about the invasion that's going to take place in the future? It's boots on the ground, and it talks about the arrows that are, shot at Israel, have no effect. Some people thought the arrows are a way of, 2,600 years ago, a way of saying missiles or devices like that that will be shot at Israel in the last days. And the reason they have to do a ground invasion is because of, obviously you soften up your enemy by, attacking, from the air and whatever it might be with missiles and rockets and drones and that. And evidently they will have no effect. And that's why they need this great ground invasion in the last days. It's the only way they can actually take over Israel, because it seems these other things will not be working at the time, or not have the effect they want it to be. In other words, it's not going to be a hydrogen bomb, atomic bomb, or whatever it might be. So it's fascinating, all this coming together. So we'll give you more on the story as we know it, but it is fascinating. They finally revealed it publicly, so I can say a few more things about it. And I'll find out tomorrow how many more things I can tell you, because some really interesting things are going on here. All right, so with our top story, bottom line, the new hostage ceasefire deal coming from the U.S., we await Israel's response. It's hard to imagine they would accept this, but stranger things have happened. So, because the whole new deal is overwhelmingly in favor of Hamas, which Witkoff thought wasn't a bad idea at all. Like we said, it speaks volumes there. So we'll let you know when we hear something. Never a dull moment here, is there? I'm Don Stewart. Thanks for watching. Until next time, as always, may the Lord richly, richly bless.